How are you guys doing this morning? Welcome to our little chat this morning. Today I'm going to be chatting to you guys about 3 tips to make peace with food. So this is a more recent kind of journey that I've been on of intuitive eating, and I'm just sharing with you guys my own experiences with that kind of method of learning to ditch the diet mentality and make peace with food. So before we begin, if you guys are watching live, I would love it if you said hello so I can say hi back to you. And if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay so I can come back to you later and say hi to you then. And then if you guys are watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on Facebook this morning, after this video is done, if you head on over to YouTube, type in my first and last name, hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications for every time that I come live. There's lots of yoga videos, meditations, self-love chats, and interviews with other like-minded women, and discussions on self-love topics and topics like I'm talking about today. So head on over there if that's something that interests you. So let me just get my screen up here so I can see what you guys are saying. Maybe. And there we go. Okay, so let's get into it. So intuitive eating or peace or mindful eating, whichever way you want to call it, it's a form of learning to kind of unlearn the diet mentality and focusing on listening to your body, honoring your body, and kind of making peace with food and healing your relationship with food. So if you're anything like me, in the past you may have experienced that you kind of have been at a war with food. And what if we could all learn to kind of end that war and make peace with food? When we restrict foods, we kind of deprive ourselves and we actually develop uncontrollable cravings, which leads into eating disorders. So and before I begin I wanted to just mention to you guys that I am not a dietitian or a health professional. I am a yoga teacher, and I have recently taking my facilitator training for intuitive eating, but this is just my own experiences and what I have taken from learning about intuitive eating so far. So, the first thing that I've learned is that a tip for you guys is to stop labeling foods as good or bad. This is something that we have been instilled with, is that carbs are bad, sugar is bad, pasta is bad, any kind of carbs are bad, all those things. So yes, they have nutritional value that's different, but the thing is that we have to learn to not label foods as good or bad, and just because what we eat has no moral basis, right? And so when we're talking about these things, and like keeping in mind that I also like to think of when I'm eating now, I think of like, what are the things that are nourishing my body? And then I notice how I feel when I'm eating those things and how they keep me full longer, or if I'm hungry right away. Like, just tuning into your body is really the most important part about all this, is learning what your body likes and doesn't like. And, like, I know some people, you will learn that your body doesn't like a certain food. You feel really bloated and uncomfortable, or certain foods make your joints hurt and ache. Like, there's all these different, like, medical reasons why we can, shy away from those foods. But when we're in tune with our body, it doesn't make it so unbearable, right? It's just like if someone tells you can't have something, you want it, right? So, but when you are in tune with your body and are able to kind of know what your body likes and doesn't like, and what nourishes your body and what doesn't, then you can start to make educated decisions on what your body actually needs, not what society tells you or diet culture tells you. So a fun exercise to start set is to make a list of foods that you like that are good and bad. Don't categorize them, just write down a list of all the foods that you like. And then check off the ones that you're already eating currently, and then circling the ones that you have restricted. So circling the things that you have allowed yourself not to have, and you have said that those things are bad, I'm not allowed to have those things. And then the cool part about this is to pick one of those foods And if this makes you feel like anxiety, then I would suggest not picking something that makes you feel so anxious. Maybe picking something on the bad list that isn't quite so bad in your eyes, and just start with that food. And then when you have done that, kind of give yourself unconditional permission to eat that food. And then while you're doing that, just notice how your body feels. Um, and and notice how it feels to eat it. Notice how you feel afterwards. Notice how you feel while you're eating it. Like, do you have feelings that come up around guilt or shame or maybe joy or all these things? So sometimes, and then the interesting part is, as you start to tune into that, you will start to notice that um, sometimes that especially I've learned in my own past, uh, if I forbid myself of something so long and then I kind of build it up in my mind to being so amazing, and then when I actually go to eat it, I'll be like, well, that wasn't really worth it. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't like the taste of it. Um, and then I choose not to really eat it again because it's just like, well, that I had that made up so different in my mind. Like, for example, something that I used to kind of forbid myself of was s'mores at a campfire. Because I'm like, oh, there's all that sugar in there and it's not good for me and it's a bad food. So I'm not going to do it when I was, on those kicks of healthy or, of like dieting. And so when I allowed myself permission to eat that thing, then I all of a sudden realized it's like, I really don't like these. They're full of like, they're too sweet. I don't like the taste of them. They're messy. I'd rather not. Like, I'd rather eat something else if I'm going to eat. So you start to learn that when you build yourself up into like this resistance or restriction of certain foods, when you go to have them, sometimes you may realize that they're actually um, not that amazing, right? So just really my most important tip is just to be mindful as you're trying these foods that you once have restricted in your life, and to just being really mindful of your senses and your feelings and your body sensations on what those foods feel like when you eat them, and like there's a whole science and method to it, but it's just like the coolest part is to also start to think of what are you feeling when you eat those foods. Like, if you are a person who's had either eating disorders or overeating or binging eating, those kind of things, not to the point of an eating disorder, but to the point of just unhealthy habits, right? That sometimes you'll notice too that you go for those foods if you're feeling certain emotions, like if you're feeling bored or sad or frustrated or um, emotional, any of these emotions, you can tend to notice that that's when you go for those foods. So it's really starting to analyze of like why you're eating what you're eating, what emotions you're feeling when those things are coming up, and just starting to analyze those things. And like I've kind of said too, is to eat with all your senses is really important. Note any feelings that arise, like I've been talking about. And a really cool way to do this too is if you are a person who likes to journal, you could journal about your experience on how you're feeling when you're eating certain foods, and just tuning into your body is like my biggest advice. And that's how I've kind of started to ditch the diet mentality and more really focused on what makes my body feel good. Like, for example, yesterday I packed a bunch of carrots and celery in my lunch, and I ate them, and then as I was going on my day, I'm like, you know what, if I would have eaten probably a crappy lunch, I remember normally feeling hungry by now, and I'm not. Like, I'm still full. And so I really tuned into my senses of these foods make me feel full longer. So they're nourishing my body better than other foods may. Not to say I don't have those bad foods, but just really listening to your body, and what fuels and nourishes your body is eventually what you figure out what you want to eat, because you want to feel good, you want to have that healthy relationship with food, and still eat that crap, but still be able to know what your body needs to fuel it. And then that's when you're going to make those better, those decisions to probably mostly eat food that nourishes your body. But when you crave those other foods, or when you want those other foods and those others in as we go through life. Like if you're camping with your family, you're probably going to want a s'more, and that's okay. Or if you haven't, like I go through stages of being a pop drinker, and I'll go through a long time where I don't want it. I don't even like the taste of it. It's too sweet. And then every once in a while I'll want one, and so I will have one, and that's okay. So just really giving yourself permission to eat foods, and but just really be in tune with your body and what you're feeling during that time after eating. So anyway, that's kind of my tips I wanted to share with you guys this morning. This is kind of this is like the number 3 principle of intuitive eating that I have learned about so far. And it's quite interesting when you start to put these practices into play, and how actually amazing that they do help you to heal that relationship and make peace with food. So yes, so I hope this was helpful for you guys, and if you have any questions, I will always be happy to answer them. If I don't know them, I will give you a direction of where to find them. And then before I pop out of here, a couple things. If you are not in my community, I have a free community called Imperfectly Perfect You, Finding Self-Love at Any Size. We are a group of women empowering each other to love our imperfectly perfect selves. Right now we have a challenge going on in there called the 5-Day Body Positive Challenge. It's going to be starting this Monday. So that's going to be a 5-day series that's going to take you through just a lot of body positive activities and thought processes and things to help you if you are trying to be a more body positive person. And if you are watching this video after this challenge is over, do not worry, because all the challenges in my free community are kind of held in the guide section of the group, so they will always be available to you to take at any time that you want to. So yes, and then another thing I talked a lot about today about mindful eating. I have a 28-day yoga and mindful eating program that helps you to find movement you love in 10 minutes a day. There's 10-minute-a-day yoga practices, there's meditations, there is affirmations in that program to help retrain your brain. And then there's also the whole section on weekly workbooks on discovering kind of the beginner parts of mindful eating, how to start to heal your relationship with food and make peace with food. So if these are things that you think you need help with in your life, then I got you. So that program actually has 3 spots left in it at the discounted price, and then after that the price will be going up. So if that is something you want to add to your tool belt of things to help you with your self-love journey, I would love to welcome you to that program. So yes, so that's all I had for you guys this morning. I hope you have the best day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.